Oh, by the way, pre-orders are up.
Pre-orders are up.
Nice.
For Mortal Kombat 11.
$99.99 for the premium edition.
Oh, by the way, we're gathered here today to talk about Spider-Man.
But Mortal Kombat 11
Yeah.
got announced. So let's just be real clear.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
But that pre-order looks like it's up on Best Buy.
Okay, so Spider-Man 11. I'm sorry. Christ.
Spider Combat!
Okay.
Whoa! Spider
Okay.
Ninja Warrior!
So Spider-Man didn't win any awards whatsoever, which it was nominated for tonight. But we're still going to discuss it since we've all played it by now.
Because it should have won all of them.
Yeah.
Every last award should
Right?
be Spider-Man.
Okay.
Red Dead Redemption 2 is a really weird way to pronounce Spider-Man.
Way too many syllables. All right, so I guess what were you guys' expectations for Spider-Man before you played it? It's a good place to start.
I guess for me, just one thing they had to really capture, which I think they did a fantastic job of doing, was the web swinging.
Right.
That's such an integral part. It's such an important part of Spider-Man that if they messed that up, it would have ruined the entire game.
Right.
But I think with the past Spider-Man games, maybe Spider-Man 2 and a lot of the other ones, PS1, Spider-Man for PS1 and a bunch of other ones, I think the web swinging mechanics were there. They just had to. Yes, I am loving all over this game because you know my opinion of it. But no, they did a fantastic job with the web swinging, and I think that's kind of where they had to start, and then into of course, the story, which in my opinion is the best Spider-Man movie we have ever had.
Right. Infernal, would you like to
Oh,
jump in on that?
Okay, I guess you're not going to quite get the same love train that just happened over there.
Yes, because you're
But
too busy
basically-
measuring your horse's balls in the winter.
You know it, son.
Boy. Boy.
That's a good boy.
It's okay, boy.
So anyway, the expectation going in for Spider-Man for me is I didn't have too many. The last Spider-Man game I really played was probably the first one on the PS1.
PlayStation
However,
Maximum Carnage on Super Nintendo.
Yep.
I played that before I played it anywhere else. But I guess the overall expectation for the game was more that right now we're in a climate of superhero games like Infamous, Batman, stuff like that, where Insomniac really needed to step up and show that Spider-Man was going to be as good or better than those games. And I think that's where the initial expectation was set.
Right. Yeah, and I would probably say it was, coming up on the release of it, I think the trailers I was kind of bah humbugging because they didn't look all that great. Like I looked at the combat and it looked like Batman, so it just seemed like a carbon copy of Batman, which it ended up being, which was fine.
It was on a carbon.
It was basically Batman.
You're just mad. Let's be honest. Let's get it out of the way now. You're mad because they got rid of the goddamn puddles.
The puddles
That's why
did.
you were mad.
The puddles ruined things quite a bit. But no, it seemed like it was just going to lay into the rhythm action fighting of Batman, which is fine. It did that fine.
Which technically Batman kind of took from Spider-Man 2.
Well, it must have been terrible in Spider-Man 2 because no one was talking about it.
That's exactly what it was. It wasn't terrible. No, it wasn't terrible.
It was, yeah. You just admitted to it.
That's
You
not
ruined
what
your
I'm saying.
argument.
What I'm saying is the fighting platform for Spider-Man 2 was basically the basis for the Arkham series, and the Arkham series just
But then why does
perfected it.
But no one talks about Spider-Man 2 in any regard?
Because it's like...
Because it's terrible,
It's
probably.
a million years old.
No, because it never made a splash puddles on any bit of the industry whatsoever. No, coming up on Spider-Man 2, I was hoping for a good game, and I actually think it surpassed my expectations despite minor criticisms of it.
And
But-
coming from you, that means a lot because
Yeah.
you don't like anything.
Yeah, I mean, I like Spider-Man, but my taste of my taste of Spider-Man goes back to McFarlane run comics. I don't like every Spider-Man comic that comes out. In fact, I hate most of the shit that comes out of comic books, period, these days. But the McFarlane run of Spider-Man's was awesome, and I think that there is plenty of notes in the narrative for this one that hit on stuff like that from the McFarlane run. So that's what I had expectations of.
Yeah, I do think the story was, like I said, the best Spider-Man movie we've had, period.
Best Spider-Man movie.
I just think the story itself was intriguing, engaging, kept it going. I like the parts where he plays Peter Parker, Miles Morales, Mary Jane. It mixed it up from just the traditional superhero game.
And I like the switch up. Yeah, you had Doc Ock as Peter Parker's mentor. You had, and I don't know what Miles Morales' origins are in the comics, but you had Peter Parker as the mentor of Miles Morales.
Yeah.
And then we had Mary Jane in the spot of Peter Parker essentially, as the reporter.
Yeah,
And then there was another character.
and Aunt May.
Aunt May, but then we have J. Jonah Jameson's the video game version of Alex Jones.
Yes.
And it's the modern
Wars?
it's the modern version of it to make sense of having J. Jonah Jameson in the game throughout as you do stuff, and as the story carries on, he comes in to reflect on what you're doing. You can hear his take on it. That's awesome. I thought it was perfect.
They did a really good job with J. Jonah Jameson in this
Mhm.
one. Instead of making him just a newspaper editor or whatever, having him
Right.
have the podcast that continuously went throughout the entire story. Like you said, commented on the things that you were doing in the game.
Right.
Made it really fun to listen to. Almost as fun as Spider Cop.
Spider Cop was pretty funny. Yeah, Spider Cop was pretty good.
Did you know Spider Cop just made his official comic debut?
No.
He did.
Oh, Jesus.
So.
Oh,
Thank God.
okay, so what do you guys think about the flow of the game? Because I felt like there were a lot of bosses at the end, but not as much in the beginning.
No, you're right. It was definitely top heavy as far as the villains go. I think I kind of like that. Instead of your traditional, you go through a mission, fight a boss, go through a mission, fight a boss.
Right.
It developed the story in the same way that you would do a movie, where you have your first, second, and third act, and it just kind of builds up to the climax at the end. And
Right.
once the shit hit the fan, proverbial shit hit the fan. I mean, it really hit the fan, and you're fighting two bosses at once. You're fighting
That was cool.
Mr. Negative, the final boss with Doc Ock in the end when you're standing on the side of the building.
Yeah.
I mean, it was such a climactic end to the game. I think they did. I like the way they handled it. I prefer that over the traditional, mission boss.
Right, and I like how they effectively made a new boss experience by having Rhino and Scorpion together.
Right.
And then what was the other pair?
Electro
and
and
Vulture.
Vulture.
Right. And then you fought Shocker by himself. You fought Kingpin by himself. Kingpin was the first boss.
Yeah.
Mr. Negative by himself.
That Mr. Negative fight the second time was cool.
Oh,
The
when he
big,
went all
the
demon?
big Oni demon. Or
Yeah,
whatever,
that was cool. I like the train fight too. I thought
that
the train
one
fight was good. And then Doc Ock was on his own. And they kind of were making you think that Green Goblin might pop out at the end, but it was just Spider-Man, Dr. Octopus.
Yeah.
So,
But it was really cool how they did that too, and I really
hell
like
yeah.
like you touched on the dynamic between Peter Parker and Doc Ock in this,
Right.
where Doc Ock was his mentor, and you can see him breaking down throughout the entire game.
right.
And you know what's going to happen. You don't want it to. By the end, you're kind of like, okay, we got to save him.
Yeah.
But you got to beat him at the same time.
And they almost had you unclear as to whether that was going to be saved for a sequel
right.
or if that was going to develop and finish throughout the game. And they finished it throughout the game, which was awesome.
Yeah, it was nice. Speaking of sequels, that after credit scene with Harry Osborn was pretty cool. So nice
Venom,
to see-
right?
I'm assuming so.
It's got to be Venom, right?
I'm assuming that would be Venom.
Did you watch the after credits?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
I did.
it's got to be Venom, right?
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking.
Yeah,
it's
I even think about it. Like, I'm just like, what character is this going to
Right.
be?
Because it looked very symbiote.
yeah, it did.
Related.
They made a hand when it touched the glass,
Right.
and because in the similar fashion to the way Batman and the Arkham universe is its own standalone universe,
Mhm.
the Spider-Man is the
It's
same
its own
thing.
standalone.
It's basically the Arkham universe of the Marvel
Right,
comics. So I think creating characters that we're familiar with, but giving them a new twist, hence the Harry Osborn Venom combination at the end, is a good way to lead us on for future installments.
So what did you guys think about the open world and all the things you can do in the open world, or the lack of things you could do in the open world?
What was your opinion about jumping off the Avengers Tower?
Well, I couldn't die, so that was immediately a
Yeah.
half tick. Because I could do that in Spider-Man the movie. That's all I did in the demo. I jumped off the highest point possible and just watched him land. But
And the result of that was death?
yeah, it's a very weird one too. Like he turned into spaghetti and fell over.
Don't jump in front of a train; you'll die that way.
Yeah, trains will kill
Did
Spider-Man,
not
apparently.
try that.
I did on
I'll have to
accident.
try that.
Yeah, so did I. I was looking for a collectible and then turned around like, oh
There's a
shit.
train.
So I'll go first on the open world because I'm sure that Ninja here will have plenty to say as
Right.
he's already done. Open world was interesting. I mean, to be honest with you, I spent most of my time there, and in fact, I think the first half of the game I would do a mission and then do a whole bunch of open world stuff.
You did all the side stuff before completing the game, as opposed to
Yeah.
probably myself and Ninja who did all the cleanup stuff afterwards.
Oh yeah, no, did all the side stuff first. 'Cause,
Prior.
I mean, remember it was a race at the time to get it done in
Right.
like a week. So the biggest thing for me is there were some interesting things. I think the highlight for me of the open world were the Harry Osborn missions. I
Yeah.
felt that they were
Mhm.
incredibly varied, and I thought that they did a really good job getting you to do different things each time. However, I think the parts that lost me were like the thug, demon, and sable crimes that were going on around, just because they were really repetitive in my opinion. And you had to do 5 of them in each district, so it wound up being like over 50 of these that you had to do. And sometimes it was so random, you could be swinging around a district for 10, 15 minutes and you'd never see one.
Waiting for a crime to occur.
So I felt that those were a little lacking. I mean, it was a little samey, but like the horde modes you got from doing the bases were fun. Some of the Taskmaster stuff was interesting.
I do like that.
Taskmaster was good.
I like the Black Cat stuff too.
Black Cat stuff was
But
good
my
too.
favorite, Black Cat was actually one of the better ones, just because it had that weird like find the object sort of thing. But I think by far my favorite open world stuff were the Harry Osborn missions.
Just because of the
By
very...
far.
The
Yeah,
science-
just because of the
science
variety.
projects.
And also it was kind of interesting doing like the sequencing and stuff inside Doc Ock's lab.
That was
Oh,
It
yeah.
was interesting.
That's right.
Some of that was kind of interesting, those little MIDI games. One of them clearly sort of callback to BioShock when you were hacking machinery.
Right, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
But, all in all, not bad. Some of the stuff was a little repetitive. I wish they had done something different. But for a first effort superhero game, especially from Insomniac,
Sure.
it was really well done.
Ninja?
All right. For me, we all know here, at least these two know, that I don't care for open world games. I don't at all. In fact, I try to avoid them like the plague. That's why I'm not playing Red Dead Redemption at this time.
Don't admit that.
I'm just saying it.
Don't say that on
I'm
video.
just saying
Don't
it.
say that on video.
But Spider-Man, it wasn't so open that you get lost in the world and you'd always run into something. Like Infernal said, it did get a little repetitive with some of the beat-em-up missions and stuff. It's probably why I still don't have Platinum. I'm probably the only person who owns the game that doesn't have Platinum.
You're part of the 90% that doesn't
I
have
am
it.
the 90% that, But
and let's get this out of the way. I was not planning on playing Spider-Man until we started talking about the game, and even I went out and got the platinum trophy for this game.
But as far as the open world goes, it was enough for me that I could entertain myself outside of the main story. But I really just focused on the main story and getting through the narrative of it, just because I was really intrigued. And like I said earlier, the dynamics of the characters, how they all interacted, and just the story of itself, I really liked more than anything else.
Now, did you at least do the Tombstone side mission?
No.
Because that was the most narrative-driven one, and I think they needed more. For me, they needed more narrative-driven side missions like Tombstone that maybe didn't intertwine with the main story. But like, I think they could have snuck in Kraven. They could have snuck in some weird oddball Spider-Man characters. This villain's not named Screwball. That Screwball nonsense. They brought her back in the DLC 1. I don't know if you guys have played the DLC. I know you haven't. They brought her back in DLC 1. It's just like, okay, why is Screwball in this game? And then apparently she's in the second DLC, and I haven't played that yet. But yeah, I thought that the rinse and repeat crime battles got a little redundant. My favorite ones were the Taskmaster ones. You guys saw I did all the high score ones. Those were fun. Cool. Yeah, I like the high score challenges. I like the
I like how you would copy your abilities, and even whichever power you had associated to your suit, he would copy that as well.
And I wish you could have fought him at least one more time. Yeah. I felt like one more battle with Taskmaster was good. And then who was the other one? There was Taskmaster, Tombstone. Were those the only other two villains that you run into?
Those were the only two villains
that mattered.
Right.
That were side missions.
Because you ran into Black Cat.
Black Cat,
you ran into Harry Osborn. You ran into
and I like the Black Cat stuff. That was sort of Riddler-esque, and having you go explore the city a little bit.
The landmarks.
The landmarks were cool. Yeah, landmarks are cool. What's really cool about the landmarks is that there are actual landmarks.
Yeah.
And then there are fictional landmarks. Yeah.
Exactly.
Like Doctor Strange's area. Yep. Yeah. The Avengers Tower. Those were really cool.
But you can't die when you jump off.
Yeah, we found that out the hard way.
Yeah, I think because it was such a well-built open world, I wish it would a well-built environment for open world. I wish they would let you do more. Like, there should be much more to do.
I mean, as far as the open world goes, at least capturing the essence of New York.
Oh yeah,
I mean, it was absolutely beautiful.
Yeah,
the game
super
is
awesome.
gorgeous. The game is absolutely gorgeous, and sometimes I would catch myself just web swinging through the city,
right? Yeah,
just because it was so fluid and the mechanics were so much fun.
Yeah,
it was just I think that really was a shining.
Yeah,
of the game.
Yeah. Getting from one point to the next in Spider-Man is just awesome.
Yeah.
What were your favorite costumes?
Spider-Man 2099.
The first one, classic.
That's just Spidey 2099.
Yeah, I like 2099. Yeah,
I used Homecoming.
Homecoming.
I like the Homecoming one.
Yeah, I stuck to classic or the beat up classic or 2099. There's one more I did.
The final Doc Ock suit was awesome.
The final Doc Ock suit was really good. That was really good.
The other one I did was the one with the Ghost Rider head.
I was just gonna say, what was that? What was that? Spider Spirit or?
Yeah, Spirit
Vengeance
Spider
or something?
That was really
Spirit
good.
of Vengeance, was it? No, because
It had something to do with Ghost Rider.
Yeah.
It has to. Yeah.
No,
But
it
it
was
was-
definitely Ghost Rider.
Okay, so there's a
That was
minor
neat.
there's a minor quibble I have is that I wish you could have looked at every single item and they would have had lore time behind them, like the costumes. I wish they would.
Destiny does with some of their
Yeah, or
weapons.
the Arkham games, they would have described a little bit about where
like
what the
the
history of
backpacks
those.
did.
Yes, exactly.
So that would have been cool if it had the costumes done that.
Yeah,
But, and I did like that about the backpacks. How whenever you found something in the backpack,
it explains
there
something.
was some type of lore, something associated to you to kind of give you a little bit of history on. it.
Right.
Well, I think too the biggest thing is the one thing that, like I was saying earlier, the one thing this is a first effort for
Yeah.
Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And the cool
Sure.
thing is for Insomniac is it was successful. So that means they can
Seriously
reach
successful.
out
Right.
and do another one. And
Mhm.
if they do, I'm sure it'll be loaded with tons of stuff. Let's look at past games from Rockstar, for example.
Oh, yeah.
GTA 3, yeah, it was open world. Yeah, it had some interesting things to do. But it wasn't until Vice City, then San Andreas, up until 5, where you really opened up what
Sure.
the potential was for that open world.
The hard thing to compare there, though, is that there was nothing like GTA 3 at that point.
Sure.
Whereas now with Spider-Man, we've got so much to compare it to and so much to lay expectations on Spider-Man for. Like, you better do this if you're going to have
Shadow
Yeah,
of Mordor,
yeah, right,
Mad-
exactly.
Mad Max.
Mad Max
Mad
games.
Max.
Yeah,
but I would
sure.
argue, though, that even this game, especially the first, had more, especially than the first Shadow of Mordor.
Yes,
Shadow of
Shadow
Mordor
Mordor didn't
was
have
great,
much. Yeah.
but it was basically going around killing horses.
Well, take away the Nemesis system, and Shadow Mordor isn't a very good game.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
just a really gory Batman.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
Yeah.
really what it turned out to be. But this game was a great first effort from Insomniac on a superhero thing. I know it's not their first foray into open world,
Right.
because Sunset Overdrive did come out, and that wasn't a bad game. It was actually really interesting.
And this is the Infamous developers?
No, this is
Insomniac.
Ratchet and Clank.
Yeah.
Ratchet and Clank. Okay, right.
So, and that's the other thing I mentioned to you earlier, is that this is kind of what I wanted Infamous to be.
Mhm.
The traversal just made it a joy to get around the city.
Right.
And in Infamous Second Son, if you could traverse Seattle like you could in this game,
Yeah.
totally different experience. Like that was my big complaint about the
Well, one
Infamous.
more awesome thing about the traversal is that every time you dove off a building, the Avengers theme, right? Is it the exact Avengers theme?
No, but it was
Something
very
similar, right?
emblematic of, like, it was what you expect a
When you're-
superhero movie
Right,
to
yeah.
play.
Every time you dive off
like
a building,
going
it's that theme of like, okay, I'm Spider-Man.
Yeah.
that was awesome.
Yeah.
Favorite bosses?
I think my favorite boss was. Actually, my favorite boss was when you were Miles Morales running around from the Rhino.
Oh, that was good.
That was my
That
favorite
was good.
boss. I just like that, the sneaking around like that. I thought
That
it
was good.
fun.
That whole scene reminded me of Aliens when when they were in the Marine ship finally, and Newt was trying to escape from the Queen Alien. She was pulling the grates. That reminded me of what Rhino was doing. He's pulling the grates up. Yeah,
You're right.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
I enjoy that. But I think actually fighting the bosses, I really like the Mr. Negative, the second Mr. Negative iteration.
Second Mr. Negative was really cool,
I thought that was
and it was
fun.
cool. He was such an obscure. Like I didn't know who he was before
Yeah.
this game. Super obscure, and he turned out really good too.
Yeah, I had no idea he had a name. So, my favorite boss was definitely the final battle with Doc Ock. That's probably my other ding on the game, was I felt like a lot of the boss battles felt really sort of tedious, because once you got the initial pattern down, they were pretty easy. The one exception I would say would probably have been the Rhino, when you fight him with Scorpion.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because you have to figure out how to get him to get in the way of all the crap and
Right.
stuff like that. But like Shocker, Vulture, Electro, if you figured out the pattern, it was pretty easy to
But
get around.
that can be said with any action game.
It can be said
Sure.
with a lot of games, but I feel like nowadays we have seen games that have done it better, especially with their bigger bad guys.
Yeah.
So that's my one real criticism of the game. But I mean, all in all, though, it's still great seeing the characters. It was great seeing what they did with them. Because the other cool thing about superhero games or movies, for that matter, is seeing all the ways in which the developer, director, whatever, goes and recreates these classic villains and heroes and stuff like that to make them look cool. And that's the one thing I think Insomniac did very well is I thought their designs for a lot of these people were really cool.
Vulture looked awesome. I thought Elektra looked awesome.
Yeah, they all look great.
Shocker looked great. Kingpin. Yeah, I think favorite boss has to be Dr. Octopus. Now, I definitely like the scene with Miles Morales. And I was complaining about having to play as Miles Morales, mostly Mary Jane. I thought a lot of her points were not as fulfilling, except for the last one where you play as her and you command Spider-Man to pick off the enemies. That was a good payoff. And then I felt the same about most of Miles' missions. I think just the middle one I didn't like. But the payoff for him is you fight Rhino effectively, and you deal with him. That was pretty cool. But yeah, hands down, it has to be Dr. Octopus on the side of the building.
Just like the emotion that the actors bring in that final scene where you can really hear the struggle with
the mask is torn off.
Yeah, and Peter's really having a hard time with this. It's I mean, he's basically at this point fighting his, his father figure, and has to take him out. But that fight was really cool on the side of the building when you're standing on the side of the building.
Yeah, the second part of it. Yeah. Now about a sequel. What does a sequel mean?
Venom. I think we'll go Venom or Goblin.
You got to go with one of the bigger, more iconic villains, I think, at that point, because Doc Ock himself is one of the biggest Spider-Man villains. You only go bigger from there.
Right.
And being that, yes, Venom is probably one of the biggest, you probably go that direction. Though they could always throw you off and go Craven. or Mysterio or something like that.
When you guys were talking with you, Val, we're talking about the side missions. You wish there had been other bosses and stuff like that. I think that's another reason why possibly they didn't go that route.
Holding back.
It's because you have all these really good villains. Do you really want to waste them for side missions?
Right.
So I would think you'd want to focus on them. So throw the screwballs in there. Let them...
Anybody with screwball, please.
Do that, and then save your Cravens and your Mysterios and stuff like that. For
Lizard.
Well, and let's be honest. What other character other than Batman has as much of a sort of beloved and
rogues gallery?
Gallery.
Yeah, I mean, Spider-Man has a fantastic rogues gallery. You've got
the X-Men.
The X-Men has a pretty good, awesome.
But at the end of the day, though, Venom, Carnage.
No, you're right. I feel like I think when you're saying like the most iconic villains of all time, like, you're going Joker. You're saying Green Goblin or Venom. Like, they're right there on the same level.
Right.
You're right. You're right.
Because you may not have the exposure that Batman has had over the various decades. I mean, hell, we had Adam West all the way through Christian Bale
being developed.
For Christ's sake.
Ben Affleck. Thank you.
Ben Affleck. Sorry, he was the Bomb and Phantom.
Michael Keaton. Michael Keaton.
You were the Bomb and Phantom, yo.
AKA the Vulture.
Yeah, right.
But that's the point, though, right? Is that you have all these villains for Spider-Man, and I think some of them, in some ways, are definitely equal to the Joker or the Penguin. Maybe they don't have as much exposure throughout television and other media, but they're definitely in the world of comic books just as huge.
And it's pretty safe to say with the end credits of Spider-Man, Venom's got to be in it. Whether that Venom is Eddie Brock or it seems like it's gonna be Harry.
Well, I think it's gonna be Harry.
It's gonna be Harry Osborn, right?
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, sorry.
It should be Tom Hardy.
If you're part of the 90% or whatever that percentage is that hasn't finished Spider-Man, spoiler alert. So.
That man is a national treasure. Shut the hell up.
So you gotta have Venom. Probably gonna have Green Goblin, hopefully. And that mask that was on his desk when you're sneaking around his apartment that's
a Goblin prototype.
That's a Goblin prototype, right? So you gotta have Goblin, and then hopefully, what I'm really hoping for is they gotta have crossover characters like Daredevil in that game. Would have been sick.
He would have been. It would have been cool if they do. It may be something for the sequel that they do incorporate something like that.
Right. And maybe that's something I would have liked to have had a little bit of is that instead of maybe side missions involving more villains, maybe side missions involving other heroes.
See, I agree, and I agree more for a sequel.
Sure.
Because I think for this particular game, like
had to rely on Spider-Man.
Being his first run out the gates,
right?
I think focusing primarily on Spider-Man and only Spider-Man, well, Mary Jane and some of the other characters, but the Spider-Man characters, Spider-Man family, was a good way to introduce this this world to us. But they did let us know that those other characters existed.
Right.
Whether it was, like I said, the Sanctum Sanctorium or, Nelson and Murdoch or whatever it was, Alias Investigation.
Mm-hmm.
They were there, the Avengers Tower, but I think next game start bringing that kind of stuff in.
Right.
So,
and can we please acknowledge one of the best things about this game is it wasn't a complete origin story?
Yes, absolutely.
I don't need to see Uncle Ben die for the 30 millionth time.
That was a great thing, and I think that was something the Arkham games did right, is that Arkham Asylum didn't say, hey, here's an origin story for Batman, even though there was the scene with Scarecrow.
Yeah,
sure.
Same thing with Spider-Man was like, this is not an origin story for Spider-Man, you know the deal, even though they did the same Scarecrow scene effectively with the hallucinogen, bringing him back.
Maybe it's because the Macho Man wasn't available for a Bonesaw game.
Oh, yeah!
Bonesaw is ready! The best character ever.
Yeah, it was good. Overall, it was good, and I think that...
That's a cute costume. Your boyfriend make it for you? But I think overall, it was everything that I expected it to be. It was what I hoped as far as a Spider-Man game would go. Now I know Infernal doesn't necessarily share the same praise that I do for it.
Goatee?
It was,
you would call it your goatee?
It's my goatee.
It's your
goatee. It is my goatee. So, I enjoyed it. I mowed through it as fast as I could. Absolutely loved everything about it.
So are you going to play it again?
Yeah.
Are you going to play it at a higher difficulty?
Probably not.
Are you going to collect all the collectibles?
Possibly, maybe, probably.
Infernal,
not.
are you going to play it again?
No.
No? Okay, I'll probably play it again on the whatever the new game plus ultimate hard difficulty is. I already got all the trophies, so I'll definitely do that. So before we wrap up, let's talk about Game of the Year awards.
Mortal Kombat.
What was the biggest thing of the Game of the Year awards, ladies and gentlemen?
Fortnite Season 7. What? No, Mortal Kombat 11.
Okay, thank you. Mortal Kombat 11. Sweet
All right,
Christ.
I'm going to give a real answer because I know it's just because we've got 3 fanboys of Mortal Kombat in here. I'm just going to go ahead and say the biggest moment of the Game Awards was, to me, the somewhat stunning victory of God of War as Game of the Year.
Yes.
Because Red Dead Redemption had been winning
everything.
Right.
Everything.
Boy.
Was expecting them to win sports title of the year at this point.
Best fighting game.
Best racing game.
Yeah.
Best strategy game, Red Dead Redemption.
Got it. And I'm going to say in front of these two, because they both voted differently than I did, suck.
Okay, so yeah, let's just go down to our goatees. I voted for Red Dead Redemption 2 because even as good as I think God of War is, and really it's such a popularity contest, it doesn't matter, but I just think everything about Red Dead Redemption 2 is so good. And we talked about this earlier, that the reinvention of the series makes God of War so good. And then you voted for Spider-Man because obviously it's the best thing to ever happen to Spider-Man games. Period. Yeah. So I think all of those, and for those respective reasons, could be Game of the Year. You know what I mean? Like, all of those had huge impressions on their respective IPs. So,
but let's be real though. I feel like Ninjas was coming out of more of a place of just being a massive fanboy.
A massive fan.
Yes, absolutely.
I knew mine wasn't going to win, but the dream was out there. I threw in the universe.
In terms of Game of the Year, of games that you played, top 5 games. Your top 5 games that you played this year.
Oh God, I had a list. So, basically at number 5, I had Spider-Man. Number 4, I actually have Forza Horizon 4.
Okay.
I think it's a wonderful racing game. If anybody has an Xbox or a PC great enough to run it, highly recommend it. Number 3 was... Crap, I don't remember. I'll circle back around to that if I can figure it out. Number 2 was actually Red Dead Redemption 2 this year.
Hold on, didn't you say Destiny Forsaken was your number 3?
Yes.
Yeah.
Destiny Forsaken was my number 3, and I'll explain it like
even though I don't think that's a good.
He explained he doesn't think it does because it's an expansion. I think it counts because it completely redoes what Destiny 2 was. Most of the internal systems were completely changed around, and there was an amazing story, which the original version of Destiny 2 was interesting.
Sure, better than the first one.
Better.
I will only agree with his explanation because if Street Fighter V Arcade Edition can be nominated for Best Fighting Game of this year,
fair enough.
Then damn right, Destiny 2 can be.
Destiny 2 can be, Forsaken be.
Fair enough.
So number 2, with a really heavy heart, it was Red Dead Redemption 2, just because Red Dead Redemption was the was my all-time favorite game of the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360 life cycle.
Yeah, Red Dead Redemption.
And Red Dead Redemption 2 brilliantly came back and delivered more of what I loved in better ways and really charmed the living hell out of me. I'm still going through it.
Absolutely.
And looking at every detail.
Like horse balls.
But
every detail.
Every detail. But my number one has to be God of War. And the reason is because that game single-handedly did so many things that I never thought I'd see in God of War. First of all, telling a story that really, really humanized Kratos. He was there was no way he could have been portrayed like that before.
Right.
The systems that went into play, the graphics, everything was concise and incredibly well done, and it completely transformed the series for me. So that was my number one.
Nice.
Ninja?
All right. Let's see. My top 5 games of this year. Let's see. So I've only really been playing 2 games this year.
and one of those games didn't even come out this year.
One of those games didn't come out. Well, we'll say, let's see. So top 5, I'll probably say God of War. And the only reason I'm saying God of War is 5 right now is because I'm not done with it.
Right.
I just started the game, but I am loving what I've played so far. To go off what Infernal said, the graphics, the story, everything about it, the way that he said, like, the humanized Kratos. I'm still very early into the story, but so far I am loving what I'm playing. So it'll probably get bumped up once I finish it, but I need to go through and finish it. Actually, hold on. I forgot I have a list of everything I've beaten this year.
Excellent. You guys came prepared. I appreciate that.
Oh, no. I pin it to my Twitter every time I beat a game. So let's see. What else am I playing this year?
You really can't put Spider-Man in more than one position. You know that.
Yeah, Spider-Man only takes up one slot.
Apparently I unpinned it, so never mind.
FOWA?
So,
we'll get to that.
Fall was definitely on there. So we got God of War, and then trying to think what else that I played. I really haven't played any really new games this year. Spider-Man, I guess Astrobot Rescue Mission would probably be up there. I'm really enjoying that VR. For those of you who have a PSVR, it is a must-own. It definitely takes the platformer to a new level playing in the VR atmosphere. It just does things that you can't do on a traditional TV screen. It makes it more interactive and it really brings to life the game in ways that you would never think possible. So I would definitely recommend that if you haven't played that. I would probably say number 3 would probably be I'm only putting it at number 3 because it didn't come out this year, but it's new to me and I've been addicted to it like freaking crack. Is Dibda, or for those of you who don't know, DBD or Dead by Daylight. That game is a sleeper hit that when they released it on PlayStation Plus, downloaded it, and I have not stopped playing it since I got it. It's religiously played almost every day in my house.
It's a crack addiction.
It is. And the thing I like about it is it's very similar to a fighting game. What I like about fighting games is you can invest a lot of time into it, but it doesn't, you can walk off at any time and then just pick up back where you were at. It's just like playing a couple matches in Mortal Kombat or Injustice. You're not tied to a story where you have to continually progress yourself. Mm-hmm. Of course, you can build your levels up and stuff. Number 2 is going to be Firewall Zero Hour. By far the best VR game that I have ever played. Again, if you're a PSVR owner and you don't have it, you are doing yourself an injustice by not owning this game. You like what I did there? You have to have the aim controller, of course, but it does for first-person shooters in VR. It is the best experience, and may very well be the best first-person shooter that I've ever played because of that alone.
It is really good.
I know Infernal.
Mr. Destiny over here.
Yeah, but you haven't played it, so you don't understand it yet. So that's why.
When you play Destiny, you may understand that.
I've played it. I've tried to get through Destiny.
I know. You got through 5 minutes. Congratulations.
And then my number 1 game of the year is, of course, going to be Spider-Man. It was everything that I looked for. It was everything that I wanted in a game. And for my style, like, I love the story. I just like playing through it. I don't care to platinum or any of that kind of stuff. But for what it was exactly what I hoped for in a game.
Right on. Yeah, I would have to say... starting from the top, obviously, Red Dead Redemption 2 is amazing. God of War is amazing for all the reasons already talked about. Red Dead Redemption 2 expands on everything the first one does, and then some. And then, I hate to admit this, but you told me about how good Firewall was since September, and it is amazing. It's absolutely amazing. It's absolutely in my top 5. whatever that order actually would shake out to be.
I knew it would be. As soon as you played it, I was like, I just need you to play it. That's all I need you to do.
It is super addictive, and just like you mentioned about Dead by Daylight, you can jump into a match of Firewall. Matches on average are maybe 4 to 6 minutes.
They top at 5.
Yeah,
So
5 minutes. There you go, and you're done. And it feels like virtual Counter-Strike almost, like where it's very simple objectives on both sides. It expects you to communicate with your team, which I think is awesome for multiplayer. I think it should have been in best multiplayer game of the year because of the communication level required to play. And then what else would I say? Bayonetta was this year. That was new to me because I only just started playing Bayonetta. I think Bayonetta for that genre of game is really good still. It's the female Devil May Cry, yeah. And then I'm surprised it wasn't mentioned at all, but I still think it's worth mentioning is Shadow of the Colossus came out this year. And it was a remake, but it was really, really good. It was the guys that did the guys who ported Titanfall. Was it Respawn? Is that right?
I think Respawn were the creators of Titanfall.
Okay, so whoever ported Titanfall to 360, I think that's who it is. Yeah, Shadow of the Colossus was really, really good. I'm trying to think what other titles came out on Switch that I played. Been really bad about my Switch games. But yeah, so God of War, Red Dead Redemption 2, Firewall. Like I said, I don't know if I put Shadow of the Colossus in the top 5, but I think it's worth mentioning as far as good games to play this year. Spider-Man, absolutely, without a doubt, of the games I played. Did I say Firewall?
You did.
I don't think I said it enough.
Firewall,
I should say it twice. It's really good. And then, is there a 5th game to say? Dibba-da didn't come out this year. Okay, so you said Destiny Forsaken, and I haven't played as much as I should have, but I probably agree that if we're going to consider games that are ongoing with major expansions, I would also agree Arcade Edition falls in line with that. No Man's Sky probably deserves tons of praise for reinventing itself now over 2 years since it shipped. Yeah, it's been a good year as far as games.
It's been a good year for games.
So
next year's going to be better.
Next year's going to be better. Mortal Kombat 11.
Oh my god, I'm so happy.
Okay, so a Mortal Kombat 11 review in the future, but our next game's going to be God of War once you finish it?
Yes, I'll finish it here in the next probably week or 2.
All right, right on.
So let's say for Spider-Man 1 through 10, what would you guys give it, Val?
I would give it a 8.5. I think 8.5 means it's solidly good. If you like unless you hate Spider-Man, you should play it, and you're gonna love it. What gives it room to improve?
Fair enough.
I give it an 8 because again, the traversal was great, the story was great, the graphics were really good. Mm-hmm. Just had some minor complaints with some tedious objectives. Slightly lackluster boss fights, at least for me, but overall, a really good game.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll give it a solid 9. It would have gotten a 10, but there weren't enough puddles in it for me.
Not enough puddles.
So
I agree.
The removal of the puddles was a big dampener for me, and I just kind of don't even know if I was going to buy. I almost canceled my pre-order because of it.
That's a big one.
I know you guys were really being wet blankets over
Insomniac needs to address that for the sequel, or else I'm not buying it.
They did address it. They added in the photo mode. You could add
puddles. That's right. Oh, that's one more thing to talk about. Photo mode in Spider-Man was amazing.
Fantastic.
Yes, I was all over photo mode.
It was amazing.
Especially with puddles.
Yeah, especially with puddles. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
all right.
But anyways, great game. Loved it.
Spider-Man
Mortal
was
Kombat
good.
next year, everyone.
Mortal Kombat, can't wait. Spider-Man was good. It passed the litmus test of good games. And next review, we'll be back with God of War.
Damn right.
All right. Peace out. Thanks for tuning in.
See you guys on Monday.
Bye-bye.
Peace.